How to make FU money in wholesaling real estate. I'm not talking about just making 100 grand a year or 200 grand a year. I'm talking about money where you could say FU to anyone and everyone, basically doing whatever you want, whenever you want, and truly getting the most money possible. What I'm going to do today is show you the 5 levels of wealth for wholesaling and how you can go from level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, just like a video game. Every single level is a challenge, but when you do it, you level up and start making more money. And this all is going to lead us to level 5, which is going to be FU money, truly where you're making millions of dollars wholesaling and you're not in the business, right? You're working maybe 10, 15 hours a week. If you want to go nuts, maybe 5 hours a week and you're making millions of dollars. But again, we got to start at level 1. And really level 0 is right. You're making no money or you're kind of struggling. But level 1 in wholesaling real estate, especially when it comes to wealth, is a pretty good level. At this range, you're making around $100,000 per year. You're the big boss. You're making 100 grand, 6 figures wholesaling, which is it's a big deal, you know, like you're going full-time in this business now. And it's still very impressive, but you're roughly around 100 grand a year. Still pretty cool. What you're gonna find at this level is you're still doing everything solo by yourself. You're focusing on pretty much 3 to 5 lists and probably 2 marketing channels. And you're still roughly trying to figure out what's working and what isn't working. Now, how do you go from level 1 all the way up to level 2? Well, level 2 right here, very impressive, is around 300 grand a year. Now, let me tell you why. 300 grand a year is going to be pretty much your cap, like your limit, wholesaling real estate solo. Now, yes, there are exceptions. There are people making millions just by themselves and not having partners or doing anything, but for the average wholesaler, 300 grand a year is going to be like your top end, the most you can make just doing it with yourself. No employees on the marketing, nobody on dispo, nobody on acquisitions, only just you. You're literally doing everything. You're probably going to be around 300 grand a year. That's where a lot of people get stuck when they don't want to hire anybody or scale out their operations. Now, again, I'm calling you like the solo king because you're the top person who's doing it all by yourself, which isn't a compliment, but still there's nothing wrong to this, right? You want to get from here to here. And then we can start going from here to here to here. And really the way you got to this level was you started to scale the marketing. And so this is going to be key number 1. To go from this level to this level, you have to learn how to scale your marketing. You have to start learning exactly what's working and what isn't, right? And so what lists are working, what lists aren't working, what kind of closing script is working for me, what kind of closing script isn't working, and how am I effectively finding cash buyers the right way? And just over time, by just doing repetitions and doing it over and over, you're gonna find marketing, what works and doesn't, and then you just get better and better and better. And really, I like to just call it doing more of what's working. Now, how do you go from here to level 3? Because like, what's the big boss here? Level 3 is pretty dang good. And this is where a lot of the awesome people are. Let's change the color up here. This is where you're making around 600 grand a year, and there's a very specific reason why. And again, I know at this point, not many wholesalers can relate to this, but there are some that need to know this, and eventually you're trying to level up, so you should know this. But you're making 600 grand a year, and you think you are the man, and then April comes around, you go to wholesalingtax.com, you find the accountant, you get the bookkeeping, and you realize, wait, what's going on? Because the only way you go from 1 to 2, and the only way you go from 2 to 3 is you start hiring basically a team, which is pretty cool, right? You start hiring marketers, cold callers, texting people, maybe a junior acquisitions person, somebody on the dispo, and you start scaling it out because you're working a lot of time doing this and you're working a lot of time here, but now you kind of scaled it out and you got people doing it for you, which is really nice. But you end up closing 600 grand, which sounds awesome, but unfortunately, you found out that you're only netting 300K. And you may be like, what are you talking about? And you're going to learn the nasty truth about scaling out a wholesaling operation, whereas in the beginning, your first year, like scaling out, you're probably going to make the same amount of money as you were the year before, but now you have all these employees and operations and complications where you're freaking out like, oh my gosh, what in the world did I just get myself into? And this is where half the wholesalers decide, screw this, and they go back to level 2 and they just do their own solo thing, which isn't a bad idea. But the people that say, you know what, the first year sucked because I've just learned not only how to wholesale, but I had to learn this new thing called being a boss. I had to learn exactly how to hire people, how to keep people, and The worst part about it is maybe you have 3 cold callers and 2 of them quit on you in a month. And then boom, it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And you get so stressed in all these situations and you end up learning how to become a true business owner. And I'll be honest with you, right? When there's heat in the kitchen, some people just got to get out of it and they can't handle it. You need to decide who you're going to be, but you got to realize once you go from level 2 to 3, yes, you're going to make more money, do more deals. You're going to feel like more the man, but you're probably going to net the same amount because you are going to make a lot of mistakes. But that's kind of the point. You get better and better with time. Trust me, it was not easy being a 20-year-old hiring 40-year-olds to be acquisitions managers for me. But I had to learn how to become a better boss, a better person at hiring, and ultimately a better leader. And this took some time. But once you start getting the efficiencies, you kind of get into level 4 here. Now, to clear about level 3, and this is kind of sad, but it's true, you're going to end up probably working twice as hard. You're literally doing twice the work. So, and you might be like, Zach, what are you talking about? I'm hiring people so I work less. No. You're doing the regular job as the solo person overlooking the operations, but now you're also doing the extra work managing the employees and training the employees and then making sure they're doing their job on top of looking at the regular operations and make sure everything's going smooth. It's roughly, especially in the beginning, twice the work. Another thing that's really difficult, a lot of people are going to learn, is you're going to have to trust other people, which is very difficult. And ultimately, this part of the operations where you start making more money is when you start learning how to scale people. Like, how do I scale it out where I can have multiple people doing the operations where I don't need to be dealing with it? This is going to take a lot of work, and it's mostly a lot of education and learning how to do this the right way. But I promise you, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. This is like the game where it's like the most difficult level. It's like level 4 and 5 should be harder, but it really is level 3's like, this is the big boss. The rest are difficult, but like they're not like terrible. And they just actually gets a little easier. And what I found is like, it's not that wholesaling gets harder after level 3. It's just, you just get stronger and stronger and better. But level 3 is really going to test you the most, where half the people are not going to get past it. They go back to level 2, or they end up grinding through it and actually start winning and go to level 4 and 5. So to go to level 4 is where we start really making big, crazy bucks. Because once you learn how to effectively scale and do some other things I'm going to share with you, you're going to get to 100 grand a month, which is really the awesome goal. You could consider this FU money. I mean, I hit that a pretty long time ago, but still, it's very impressive. Now, I might be like, Zach, well, what's the difference between level 3 and 4? Well, there's honestly one massive difference. First and foremost, you're going to learn how to scale people effectively, which you should have already done at level 3, but you're going to do something called scaling deals. You're going to learn how to scale the deal. And this isn't really when you do more wholesaling deals. This is really when you learn how to effectively get more out of a deal. And basically, in short, you're going to learn exactly how to start wholetailing properties. Basically, buying the property yourself, putting a little bit of money, 4, 5, 6 grand on a little bit of light renovations and throwing it back in the market. So where you're effectively making not 20 grand or 30 grand on a deal, but you start making $60,000 to $70,000 on deals because you're just wholetailing them and running a small wholesale operation. This is really when you start making a ton of money. And this is where things get really cool, because you wholesale the best and you wholesale the rest. And you start making a ton of good money in this business. Now, at the pinnacle, level 5, to get to FU money, where you're basically making like infinity amount of money, and this could be 4 million a year, 5 million a year, 6 million. I mean, I see people doing 15, 20 million a year. The point of this part in wholesaling, which I'm calling FU money, basically is when you learn one simple thing. You went from level 1 to 2 by scaling your marketing out. You went from level 2 to 3 by scaling people out. Level 4, you went from 3 to 4 by learning how to scale the deals out. And level 5 is when you learn how to scale markets. This is where you really transcend everything and you start being like, hey, I can just do more than 2 or 3 virtual markets. I can do like 7, 8, 9, 12, 14, 15 markets at a time and really start going nuts. And you really got to conquer one little boss at a time. And so learning exactly what's working, what's not is going to help you from 1 to 2. Learning exactly how to deal with people, 2 to 3. 3 to 4 is learning and actually trusting into wholesaling. And then 4 to 5 is really doing more marketing scale. And I would tell you the most risk is 4 and 5, because you start actually you actually start buying the deals yourself. And inherently, you theoretically could lose money on these deals, and you actually got to know what you're doing. But you gotta risk it for the biscuit. You are never gonna hit true crazy wealth in wholesaling real estate by staying in this level of just doing everything by yourself. Now, if you haven't done any wholesaling deals, like just stick to level 0, go all the way and level up to level 1. If you're at 100 grand a year, you need not focus on doing here. Don't even look at this, like cover it all up. Just focus on these, right? If you're here at level 1, only focus on 2. If you're on level 2, only focus on level 3. If you're on 3, only focus on level 4. And if you're on level 4, only focus on level 5. And this isn't like a rigid structure. Like you can do a little bit of both, I guess, if that's what you want. But ultimately, the best way to start making a ton of money in wholesaling real estate is by just leveling up your skill set in wholesaling one thing at a time, from just making your first deal, making your first 100 grand a year, 10 grand a month, to learning how to scale your marketing out, to scaling the people, to scaling the deals, and then scaling the markets. You're gonna have a ton of success in wholesaling real estate. Guys, if you got any value from this video, do me a favor, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe. If you enjoy my free real estate wholesaling course and community, go to freewholesaling.com, and I'll see you soon. This is Zach signing out. Have a blessed one.